Success has many definitions, but one thing is always certain. It does not come by accident. It does not simply show up at your doorstep one morning. Success comes to those who live by rules. And if there is one rule that rises above all the rest, it is this: discipline. Discipline is the bridge between desire and achievement, the connector between imagination and reality. Discipline is the bridge between goals and achievement. And when you begin to understand that, life starts to make more sense. Everyone has goals, dreams, and desires, but not everyone is able to reach them. The gap between where you are and where you want to be is not filled with luck. It is not filled with talent alone. It is not filled with hopes and wishes. It is filled with discipline. Discipline is the daily act of showing up, of doing what you said you would do, of following through on the promises you made to yourself long before the feelings of excitement faded. It is the quiet, unseen force that takes an idea and transforms it into something real, something tangible, something you can touch and experience. Without discipline, goals are nothing more than imagination floating in your mind. And imagination left unattended becomes frustration. When you look at people who achieve great things, you often see only the finished product. You see the success, the recognition, the rewards. But what lies beneath those outcomes is discipline. Discipline is waking up early when no one else is awake. Discipline is putting in hours of practice when no one is watching. Discipline is staying focused when distractions are everywhere. It is the bridge that carries you from desire to destiny. Many people set goals, but very few build the bridge required to cross over into achievement. That bridge doesn't appear overnight. It is constructed brick by brick, choice by choice, habit by habit. Every day you either add D to that bridge or neglect it. And the more consistent you are, the stronger it becomes. The beauty of discipline is that it doesn't discriminate. It does not matter where you start, what your background is, or what obstacles you face. If you apply discipline, you can move forward. Goals alone do not guarantee achievement because goals are simply targets. It is discipline that draws back the bow, aims with precision, and releases the arrow. Without that, the target remains untouched. Goals inspire you, but discipline delivers you. And the truth is, most people love to set goals because it feels good to dream. Writing down visions, imagining possibilities, and speaking about plans all feel rewarding in the moment. But when it comes time to do the work consistently, that is where many fall short. Discipline is the difference between those who dream about success and those who live it. Discipline is not about perfection, it is about persistence. You may stumble, you may fall short, but if discipline is present, you get back up, you return to the path, you keep building that bridge. Each act of discipline compounds, just like saving small amounts of money adds up to wealth over time. Every disciplined choice builds strength in your character and momentum in your journey. Skipping one task may seem harmless, but discipline knows that habits are fragile, and the moment you allow excuses, they multiply. That is why discipline demands consistency. It teaches you to value long-term gain over short-term comfort, to trade temporary pleasure for lasting fulfillment, to say yes to your future even when it means saying no to your present desires. Think of discipline as a contract you sign with yourself. When you decide on a goal, you are making a promise. Discipline ensures that promise is kept. Without it, the promise becomes empty words, and empty words lead to disappointment. B. With discipline, the promise transforms into progress, and progress eventually becomes achievement. Every time you show discipline, you are proving to yourself that you can be trusted, that motivation fades, but discipline sustains progress, and that truth becomes clearer the longer you chase any worthwhile goal. Motivation is like a spark. It excites you, it lights you up, it makes you feel unstoppable in the moment. But just as quickly as it appears, it disappears. One day you feel ready to conquer the world, and the next day you don't even want to get out of bed. That is the nature of motivation. It is temporary, unreliable, and tied to emotion. Discipline, on the other hand, is steady. It is not concerned with moods, feelings, or circumstances. Discipline does not need permission from your emotions to act. It shows up regardless, and that is why it sustains progress long after motivation has run out. So many people start strong. They set big goals, they write long lists, they talk passionately about what they are going to achieve. In the early days, the energy is high because motivation is fresh. But then reality sets in. The path is longer than expected, the work is harder than imagined, the results take more time to appear. Motivation begins to fade, and when it fades, people begin to quit. The gym is abandoned. The business idea is forgotten. The book is left unfinished. The project collects dust. Not because the goal wasn't worth it, but because motivation alone could not carry them through the difficult seasons. That is where discipline makes all the difference. Discipline doesn't need to feel excited to keep going. Discipline relies on commitment, not excitement. That is why those who cultivate discipline keep moving when everyone else slows down or stops altogether. Discipline creates momentum that motivation cannot. Momentum comes from repeated, consistent action, not from occasional bursts of energy. When you do something every day, even in small doses, you build momentum. That momentum starts to carry you forward, and eventually it becomes easier to keep going than to stop. Discipline is what keeps you repeating those actions, no matter how small, until momentum takes over. Motivation might get you to start, but it is discipline that keeps you from stopping. It is the quiet voice that says, do it anyway, but when your body says no, when your mind says rest, when your feelings say later. That voice becomes stronger the more you listen to it, and over time, it becomes your guiding force. The interesting thing is that discipline and motivation often work together, but in reverse order. Most people think they need motivation first, then discipline will follow. In truth, it is discipline that comes first, and motivation follows as a reward. When you discipline yourself to take action, even when you don't feel like it, you often find motivation waiting for you on the other side. For example, you don't always feel motivated to exercise, but if you discipline yourself to put on your shoes and begin, motivation tends to show up once you're moving. You don't always feel motivated to study, but if you discipline yourself to sit down and open the book, motivation tends to awaken once you start reading. Discipline triggers action, and action invites motivation, not the other way around. Another reason discipline sustains progress is because it builds identity. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you are reinforcing the identity of someone who follows through. That identity becomes stronger with each decision. Soon you no longer need to rely on motivation because discipline has shaped who you are. You see yourself as someone who does the work, someone who keeps promises, someone who moves forward regardless of circumstances. And once you believe that about yourself, progress becomes inevitable. Motivation is fragile because it depends on how you feel, but identity is powerful because it depends on who you believe you are. Discipline is what forges that identity, and that identity is what sustains progress for years, even decades. There is also a deeper satisfaction that comes from discipline that motivate. Success requires action, not just intention, and this is where many people get stuck. They confuse thinking with doing, planning with progressing, wishing with working. Intention is a good beginning, but it is never enough to create results. The world does not reward what you meant to do. It rewards what you actually did. Having intentions may give you clarity about what you want, but without action, they remain locked in the realm of ideas. Action is the force that brings an invisible dream into visible reality. It is the bridge that takes an internal desire and places it into the external world where it can be measured, seen, and experienced. So many people live their lives surrounded by intentions. They say they intend to get healthy, they intend to save money, they intend to learn a new skill, they intend to start that business, but intention alone never builds a stronger body, never grows a bank account, never develops expertise, never launches a venture. Action is what makes all the difference. The smallest step forward carries more weight than the grandest intention left undone. A page written is better than a novel imagined. A dollar saved is better than a financial plan never followed. A single workout completed is more valuable than an entire fitness program left untouched. Success comes to those who understand that movement matters more than intention, that doing even a little consistently is more powerful than planning endlessly without execution. Intentions can even deceive you. They give a sense of satisfaction because you feel like you've made progress when you haven't. Writing goals on paper, talking about your dreams, telling others what you plan to do, all of these actions feel productive, but they can create the illusion of achievement. It is easy to fall in love with preparation, to spend so much time setting the stage that you forget to step into action cuts through that illusion. Action forces you to face reality, to see where you stand, to measure your growth honestly. Without action, there is no feedback. And without feedback, there is no improvement. Success is built on trial, error, adjustment, and repetition. And those elements only come through action. Action also builds momentum. When you act, no matter how small the step, you create movement. That movement leads to the next step and the next, and soon you are further than you imagined. Intention doesn't generate momentum, it only generates thought. But the moment you take action, your mind begins to shift. You gain confidence because you've proven to yourself that you are capable of moving forward. That confidence grows with each step, and eventually momentum makes it easier to keep going than to stop. People who achieve remarkable things rarely had it all figured out in the beginning. They just started. They acted, learned, adjusted, and kept moving. The power of action lies in its ability to create clarity along the way, something intention alone can never provide. Another important aspect is that action separates the dreamers from the doers. Everyone has dreams, but only a few translate them into results. Those few understand that life pays you not for what you intend, but for what you produce. A farmer who intends to plant but never sows seeds cannot expect a harvest. A student who intends to study but never opens the book cannot expect knowledge. A leader who intends to lead but never takes initiative cannot expect influence. The law is simple. You reap what you sow, not what you intend to sow. Action is the sowing, and without it, there is no harvest to collect. Action also develops character. Every time you act, you are training yourself to be decisive, to be courageous, to be consistent. Intention does not shape character because it requires no risk, no sacrifice, no endurance. But action demands effort, and effort builds resilience. Even when you fail, action strengthens you because failure teaches lessons that intention cannot. Feelings change, commitment must remain firm, and that principle explains why so many people start journeys they never finish. Feelings are unpredictable. One day you feel confident, the next day you feel uncertain. One day you feel motivated, the next day you feel tired. If you build your actions around feelings, your life will always be inconsistent because feelings shift with circumstances, moods, and even the weather. Commitment, however, is different. Commitment is a decision, a choice you make once and then honor repeatedly regardless of how you feel in the moment. Commitment does not fluctuate with emotion. It is the anchor that holds steady when storms come, the compass that keeps you pointed toward your goals when distractions and difficulties try to pull you away. Most people don't fail because they lack talent or intelligence. They fail because they allow feelings to override commitment. They feel tired, so they skip the gym. They feel discouraged, so they give up on the business. They feel nervous, so they avoid the opportunity. Each time feelings dictate actions, progress is lost. The danger is that feelings are temporary, but the consequences of giving in to them are lasting. Skipping one effort leads to two, then three, until momentum is broken and the goal drifts out of reach. Commitment exists to protect you from that cycle. It says, I will act according to my decision, not my feelings. I will move forward because I said I would, not because I feel like it. That kind of firmness separates those who succeed from those who stop halfway. Commitment builds trust in yourself. Every time you keep a commitment, despite not feeling like it, you reinforce the belief that you are reliable, that you are someone who does what you say you will do. That self-trust becomes powerful because once you know you can depend on yourself, you stop negotiating with your feelings. You stop asking, do I feel like it today? And instead say, it's what I committed to, so it gets done. That simple shift from emotional decision-making to commitment-driven action changes the course of your life. It is the difference between living by convenience and living by conviction. Commitment also strengthens character. Feelings are easy to follow, but commitments demand endurance. Sticking with a commitment when everything inside you wants to quit develops resilience, patience, and determination. These qualities don't come from comfort, they come from persistence. Every challenge you endure because of commitment adds another layer of strength. That strength becomes part of your character, and character is what sustains you through the biggest obstacles. People who live only by feelings often crumble when pressure rises, but people who live by commitment stand tall even when it hurts. They know the discomfort is temporary, but the fulfillment of keeping a commitment lasts far longer. Another truth about commitment is that it clarifies priorities. Feelings often chase short-term gratification, but commitment protects long-term vision. For example, feelings may say spend money now, but commitment to financial stability says save and invest. Feelings may say sleep longer, but commitment to health says get up and exercise. Feelings may say avoid the challenge, but commitment to growth says face it anyway. Each time you honor commitment over feeling, you are choosing your future self over your current mood. That is how long-term success is built, by consistently prioritizing what matters most over what feels easiest right now. Commitment also has a compounding effect. The first time you keep a promise to yourself despite your feelings, it feels difficult. The second time, it still feels hard, but you notice it's slightly easier than before. Over time, the habit of honoring commitment becomes second nature. You no longer question whether you will follow through. It becomes automatic. That consistency compounds into results because small actions done pay. Discipline is self-respect expressed through habits, and when you begin to see it that way, it changes how you relate to the choices you make each day. Too often people think of discipline as restriction or punishment, as if it is something that takes away freedom. In reality, discipline is one of the highest forms of respect you can show yourself because it proves that you value your future enough to act with consistency in the present. Habits are simply repeated actions, and when those actions are shaped by discipline, they become the daily evidence that you respect your goals, your health, your time, and your potential. Every time you choose a disciplined habit, you are declaring that you matter, that your vision matters, and that your future is worth protecting. Self-respect is not built by words alone. It is built by actions that align with your highest standards. When you choose healthy food over junk, you are respecting your body. When you save money instead of wasting it, you are respecting your financial stability. When you study instead of procrastinating, you are respecting your mind. Each of these choices might seem small in the moment, but together they form a pattern that defines your life. Discipline is the thread that ties those choices together, and habits are the fabric it weaves. Over time, your habits become your identity, and if those habits are disciplined, your identity is one of strength, reliability, and self-respect. The opposite is also true. When you repeatedly break your own commitments, when you allow impulses and excuses to govern your actions, you begin to lose trust in yourself. That lack of trust erodes self-respect because deep down you know you are capable of more. The frustration many people feel about their lives is not simply about circumstances, but about the knowledge that they have betrayed themselves through undisciplined habits. T.S., that inner conflict eats away at confidence and dignity. Discipline repairs that conflict because it restores integrity between what you say you want and what you actually do. Each time you choose a disciplined action, you rebuild the bridge of self-respect. And with every repetition, it grows stronger. Habits are powerful because they operate almost automatically. And that is why aligning them with discipline is so important. Once a disciplined habit is established, it requires less effort to maintain, yet it produces continuous benefits. For example, a habit of daily reading builds knowledge year after year without demanding constant motivation. A habit of consistent exercise builds strength and health without requiring a new decision each day. A habit of saving money builds wealth in the background while you live your life. These disciplined habits are silent demonstrations of self-respect, proving that you are committed to giving your future the best version of yourself. They are the compound interest of discipline, paying dividends long after the initial effort. Discipline expressed through habits also protects you from the chaos of changing emotions and unpredictable circumstances. Life will always throw challenges, but if your habits are rooted in discipline, you have a structure that holds steady no matter what happens. You don't need to debate whether you will work, learn, or grow because your disciplined habits have already decided for you. That structure provides stability. And stability builds confidence. You stop living at the mercy of moods and start living by the strength of principles. That shift creates a calm assurance that you can rely on yourself, and that reliability is the essence of self-respect. Another key aspect is that disciplined habits create freedom, not restriction. When you build habits that support your goals, you free yourself from the stress of inconsistency. You don't have to wonder if you will follow through. You know you will because it has become part of your lifestyle. That freedom expands into every area of life. Finan, master yourself, and nothing external can master you because the greatest battles are not fought in the world but within. Every challenge in life, every obstacle, every temptation is ultimately a test of whether you have control over yourself or whether the world has control over you. Mastery of self means taking command of your thoughts, your emotions, your habits, and your reactions. It is understanding that while you cannot control everything that happens around you, you can always control how you respond. That ability to govern yourself is the most powerful advantage you can ever possess, because once you are in charge of you, no circumstance, no person, and no setback has the ability to break you. The struggle most people face is not with outside forces, but with the lack of self-mastery. They are defeated not because the world was too strong, but because their own impulses were too weak. They give in to procrastination. They yield to distraction. They allow fear to silence them. They let anger dictate decisions. They surrender to comfort when growth requires discomfort. These are not external enemies, they are internal ones. To master yourself is to confront those forces and take authority over them. It means refusing to be ruled by laziness, excuses, and negative emotions. It means becoming your own leader, your own disciplinarian, your own motivator. When that happens, the external world loses its power to derail you. Self-mastery is built in layers. The first layer is awareness. You cannot master what you are not aware of. Many people live unconsciously, reacting to every situation without pausing to notice their own patterns. Mastery begins when you observe yourself honestly, your strengths, your weaknesses, your triggers, your tendencies. That awareness shines a light on the areas where you are most vulnerable to losing control. The second layer is discipline. Once you are aware, you must practice restraint, replacing destructive habits with constructive ones. This is where consistency matters most, because habits form your character and character shapes your destiny. The third layer is resilience, the ability to remain steady even when life is chaotic. Resilience is the proof that self-mastery is taken root, because when storms come, you remain grounded rather than being blown off course. Mastering yourself also means mastering your mind. Thoughts are powerful, and if left unchecked, they can either elevate you or destroy you. Fearful thoughts can paralyze action. Doubtful thoughts can weaken confidence. Negative thoughts can poison perspective. But when you master your mind, you train it to focus on possibility instead of limitation, on solutions instead of problems, on growth instead of defeat. That mental control creates a foundation for action because your actions will always follow the direction of your dominant thoughts. A mind that is mastered does not wander aimlessly. It stays fixed on purpose. It becomes a servant to your vision rather than a saboteur of your progress. Emotions are another domain where mastery is essential. Anger, fear, envy, and discouragement are natural, but they cannot be allowed to dictate your behavior. Self-mastery does not mean ignoring emotions. It means acknowledging them without being enslaved by them. It is the ability to feel anger without lashing out, to feel fear without retreating, to feel doubt without quitting. When you control your emotions, you act from principle rather than impulse. That makes you dependable, strong, and unshakable. People who master themselves emotionally are not easily manipulated by others because no one can control you if you control yourself. That independence makes you powerful in any environment. Habits are another reflection of self-mastery. What you do daily determines who you become, and most people are prisoners of their habits. They want change, but their habits betray them. Mastering yourself means mastering your routines consciously dating.